This presentation is all about the Campus Life contract process. Campus Life reviews a high volume of contracts, so it's really important that you understand the information presented in this video and seek clarification if needed. Even if you don't anticipate doing anything this year for your org that involves a contract, we want to ensure everyone is on the same page about this process in case that changes. And of course, if this is your first time ever reading through or interacting with a contract, it surely won't be your last. So we want to set you up for success as a student leader and beyond. A few extremely important things to keep in mind as you move forward. First, student org representatives and advisors do not sign contracts. There will never be a situation where you're signing your own name on a contract that is tied to a service for a student org, and I'll explain why a bit later in this presentation. Another important note is that general contracts must be submitted to Campus Life at least 10 business days before the date of service. This gives Campus Life enough time to read through the contract, process the contract, get it signed by the proper people, and get it back to you before the service occurs. Contracts involving alcohol or contracts totaling at least $25,000 must be submitted through the Campus Life contract process at least 30 business days in advance of the services, since these contracts take much longer to review and sign. Contracts cannot be signed retroactively, meaning a contract will never be signed when the date of the service has already passed. So, if, for example, you're renting equipment from a company and submit the contract after the date of the event when the equipment is used, that contract won't be signed and that vendor will not be paid using university funds. There are no exceptions to this rule, so please ensure you are following our process in order to properly pay the second party. A contract is a signed agreement between a Northwestern authorized signatory and a second party. This second party can be a company, a vendor, a Northwestern student, like if a student is playing the violin in your musical and you're wanting to pay them, or any other member of the Northwestern community for that matter. Please visit SOA's website by clicking on the Org Management tab and then clicking Planning Events and Contracts to stay up to date with our policies around this process and also access important documents, links, and contact information. A contract is needed because registered student organizations are protected by Northwestern. This is why you are not signing your personal name on any contract, since the contract is being processed through your student org. A contract clarifies expectations to any provider the university is paying for services and creates written mutual agreement and understanding so it's crystal clear what expectations are for all parties involved, and terms can be negotiated before anyone actually signs the contract. A contract is needed when there's language used like terms of service, agreement, or use. A few examples are acquiring rights to a movie screening or a performing arts show, hiring an accompanist, bringing a speaker or public figure to campus, equipment rental, venue rental, professional services, food and beverage services, and most large purchases. This list is not at all exhaustive, but these are common examples of types of contracts we see come through the Campus Life contract process. It may be required to have a contract even if there's no payment associated with the service. This is super important and goes back to what I was sharing earlier about a written agreement. So be in touch with the vendor or second party to see what their needs and expectations are, regardless if payment is involved. Of course, if you have any questions about whether or not a contract or written agreement is necessary, please contact SOA and we're here to help. All contracts should be submitted to Campus Life at rsocontracts@northwestern.edu. Please ensure you're properly including all your attachments in one email to keep things simple for the folks who process and sign that documentation. So let's talk about timeline. First, as soon as you've decided you'd like to do something that involves a contract, please communicate your plan with your advisor to keep them in the loop, knowing they are an extra support system for your group. There is an RSO supplier agreement that can be found on our website, and you are expected to complete sections 1 and 4, and you should send it to the second party to complete section 3. Please note that a W-9 is needed for any payment to an individual or party. So when you send over the RSO supplier agreement asking for it to be signed, you may as well also request their signed W-9 if you don't already have it. Once you have the signed RSO supplier agreement back from the vendor, you will send that document as well as any other documents necessary to the Campus Life email to initiate the signing process. You should also CC your advisor on that communication. Please note that if something is not properly completed, you will get a message back saying what needs to be fixed. And it's only once you submit everything correctly that the 10 business day return or the 30 business day return, depending upon your type of contract, will begin. So let this be incentive to both ensure everything is submitted correctly the first time and leave plenty of time to initiate the contract before payment is expected. Once properly completed documents are submitted to Campus Life, contract authorities will then review and sign the documentation or communicate with you if any final amendments need to be made. Once it is signed, you will receive an email back with the signed documentation from the Campus Life email address. And once you have that, you should take action regarding payment with SOFO. Please note that if your contract involves bringing a speaker or public figure to campus or promoting something like a show or a film, you cannot promote the name until the contract has been signed by both parties. Just a few pro tips here. First, allow extra time for every step of the process, just in case you run into issues or delays. If you know of services you'll need months in advance, just submit the contract to Campus Life so you'll be ready to rock when the date of your event rolls around. Keep all communications organized and accessible to the proper student leaders in your group, especially as it pertains to communication with the second party and communication with Campus Life. Only promise what you can control. This is extremely important. Once you submit a contract within the 10 business day window, it is out of your control whether you get the signed contract back in 48 hours or on the 10th day. So don't promise the second party that they will have the contract or payment by X date because you can't really guarantee anything. It's important that you only promise what you can control as an individual student leader. And on that note, honesty is important to the relationship. So be honest with the vendor as to when the contract is submitted to SOFO for payment. Be honest about how long it might actually take for them to receive their payment. And also be sure to organize and archive contract documentation. This goes within the same realm as the communication threads. And don't assume anything. Ask questions if the contract doesn't go into detail about something you think it should. You should be reading through every word of the contract. And if you have any questions, it is totally appropriate to ask for clarification. Again, I'd like to emphasize that student org representatives and advisors do not, under any circumstances, sign contracts. General contracts must be submitted to Campus Life at least 10 business days before the event or service, and at least 30 business days before the event or service if it involves alcohol or the contract is over 25K. Contracts cannot and will not be signed retroactively, no matter your excuse. So please ensure you're following the outline process and asking questions when you have them. If you need any extra assistance, please contact SOA or Bianca, our administrative assistant. You can also come chat with us in the source up on the third floor of Norris. Sometimes it's easier to come in person and have a quick chat versus a lot of back and forth via email. And of course, you can always consult our website. We have plenty of resources for you, and we would like to help you as best we can. Thanks so much for watching.